applause. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mike Warner. I'm president of the Kissimmee Osceola Chamber of Commerce. I'd really like to welcome you to our school board debate in 2012. I want to start off by thanking our sponsors, our good friends at Kissimmee Utility Authority. Thank you very much, KUA. I want to thank our friends with Valencia College for giving us this room. I want to thank Access Osceola for filming this and putting it on our Government Access channel. And I want to really thank our co-sponsors for this event that are helping us present this, our good friends at the Osceola County Educators Association. We really appreciate their support. We're going to get right into it, and we are going to start off with an opening statement. We'll last 1 minute, and first up, Ms. Hardig.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Cindy Hardig, your current school board member. When first on the board, I noticed it wasn't very involved. So we increased the board interaction with our schools, businesses, and community leaders to build alliances and support for our students. During my time on the board, we have decreased the millage to the lowest in 10 years. We trimmed the budget by $20 million without school closings or layoffs, and we still maintained a B district. We accelerated the graduation rate of our minority students faster than the state. Along the way, my fellow board members have helped initiate programs to address educational and social issues which impact our district. I initiated the Kids Closet to assist our 54,000 students and 3,000 homeless students with free uniforms. It's about the whole child. When re-elected, I will continue to remain at your service. The right voice is not always popular, but it's the voice of the children, education, accountability, and you, the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Mr. Weishire.
Good on time. My name is Tim Weishire. I'm a proud graduate of the Osceola School District. I'm also a 25-year resident of District 3. My wife is here, so I'm a proud husband and a dad. And I've also been a community and business leader in Osceola County. But beyond that, I've been a champion for education for nearly 20 years. I actually work for the Osceola School District. After that, I was a substitute teacher for the Osceola School District. I've chaired school advisory councils. I've stayed engaged as a business partner and have even won Business Partner of the Year at numerous schools throughout the district. I've taught junior achievement, and I'm proud to say that I've mentored hundreds of students, not only in Osceola County, but around the state of Florida. I have a true passion for education, which is why I'm standing here tonight. I have an understanding of the important role that education plays in not only the life of a child, but in a family, and most importantly, as we sit tonight as a community as well. I believe the Osceola School Board needs sound leadership, and I'm that leader. I believe the Osceola School Board needs somebody who will bring a vision for excellence. That's what I'm prepared to do. Someone that will work as a team, collaborate with one another, and ensure that we stay focused on student achievement and retaining the best teachers in Osceola County.
Well, it's my pleasure now to introduce our panel for today. Our first panelist is Chris Falkowski of St. Cloud in the News.
Good evening.
We have Brian McBride with the Osceola News-Gazette.
Hello.
And Bill Hanson with El Osceola Star.
Hi.
Our first question will come from Mr. McBride.
Yeah. Look, and it's at some past school board meetings, there seemed to be some communication breakdowns between some school board members. What can you do to bring some stability to the board?
Mr. Weishire.
Well, I have experience in working with boards, and I have experience in bringing a collaborative effort with things. I think the reality of it is, and I said it the other day in an interview, we don't get to pick who we serve with, but yet we're responsible for serving with them. We're responsible for serving in a collective manner, in a responsible manner, and in a collegial manner. My leadership will do exactly that. Whether or not I agree with every board member every time is not of importance to me. What is important is that we make the right decisions every single time for the students of our community, and that we find a way to make sure that we lead by example from the school board dais. That is key, that is important, that's what our educators are counting on, that's what our community is counting on.
Ms. Hardig.
I can appreciate all that. However, unfortunately, when you have a school board member who constantly wants to attack, berate, and belittle people after several years, I think we really need to stand up and we need to defend the board. The board works very well together. They are a collegiate body, most definitely. And I think what's very important is if you go to school board rule and you look at section 5321, what we see on the board exhibited by one school board member would get a student expelled and a teacher, it says in here, losing their certifications. So we cannot expect anything less of our board members. I think it is a 4-1 board, and I think 4 board members work extremely well together as a collegiate body.
Ms. Falkowski.
With the still declining property values, I'd like to know how you specifically would propose to fund transportation and other new curriculum offerings within the district.
Ms. Hardig.
Can you repeat that?
With the property values still declining, how would you specifically propose to fund transportation, additional transportation, and/or new curriculum offerings within the district?
Well, certainly when you have to look at the line items on your budget and see where you can move some money, you have to look at the efficiencies or what has worked and what hasn't worked. As far as transportation goes, we do have a lot of grants out there. We continually apply for those grants. We have a new grant manager who's been excelling in finding additional funds for those transportations, because I am looking for transportation funds to get our children from Point Siena over to Liberty to be able to catch a link bus so that we can have students staying after school. I think declining property values, actually, although they've been going down, I think we got more increases than we expected at our last business advisory meeting. So, I'm not sure that it's as gloom and doom as we see there.
Mr. Weishauer.
I would add, and of course my expertise is real estate, so I'd say that actually for the last 12 months property value has been increasing in Osceola County. However, I do recognize that the tax rolls that we deal with from the tax appraiser's office are actually a year behind. That said, we do have an issue when it comes to funding, and the school board has been dealing with the deficit each year. The reality of it is, I think anytime somebody's going to be elected or going to serve on any board, it's important that we start looking at every single item in the budget. We start asking the question, is this something that's delivering the efficiencies and the effectiveness that we need? If it's not, then we eliminate it. If it's not delivering the results that we're looking for, it's important that we cut it out, we eliminate it, we trim it.
All right, Ms. Falkowski.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe that I actually got an answer to that question, Mr. Weishauer.
I was working on it.
So, yeah, kind of the long way around. So I'd like to ask the question again and see if you can get there.
I'm glad to.
Okay. How would you propose to fund additional transportation and/or curriculum offerings within the district based upon the declining property values?
We're
Very
going
well.
to give you 30 seconds on that.
That's fine. That's where I was headed. The reality of it is when you start eliminating those inefficiencies that I was referring to, what you're able then to do is to reallocate the resources that you found and use them to increase spending in other areas, i.e. curriculum or transportation. The other part is it's important that we think about how we're going to increase property values in Osceola County and how we're going to move that forward. When we do that, that then provides the additional funding sources that we need, sales tax revenue, property tax revenue, to make sure we can then allocate that money towards curriculum and transportation, to your point specifically.
Before we move on, I'm just going to, I did a horrible job explaining to our panelists the rules on the Clarity Bell. I'd like to ask you to give the candidates their full 60 seconds, and at the end of the 60 seconds, if you didn't get an answer, ring the bell, and we'll give them another 30 seconds to clarify. So with that being said, Mr. Hanson, you've got the next question.
Yes. If you're elected, what will be your first task or project that you will do in the school board? And in the case of Ms. Hartig, what will you continue doing? What will be your first priority in the new school year?
Mr. Weishauer.
It's a twofold answer. Number one is I'd want to sit with our existing board members and work collaboratively. I think it's important that we finish the master board training, that I become a part of that so we can ensure as a board we work together. In doing that, that works in concert with what I think is the most important task facing the school board in the upcoming future, which is hiring our permanent superintendent. I think it's vital. Right now, I'll say that we have a great interim superintendent. Melba Luciano's great, been in the district a long time. Proud of her, think she's doing great and will do great. If she wants to be permanent, that's great. But my first task, I believe, will be to make sure that we find the best curriculum leader, the best business leader, the best culture builder, the best person that's actually going to move our district forward and bring the vision that I think the board needs to create forward so that we can ensure we have the world-class school district right here in Osceola County.
Ms. Hartig.
I think my first priority, what I want to continue to do is get Dr. Marzano down to our school district, which he is committed to do, to work with the principals, have professional development, to continue the Marzano model that we have here that is part of our state standard. And I think that's very important. And once that leadership comes down from the educational piece, I think everything else will fall into place. And that's going to help us recruit world-class teachers as well, because when you have world-class curriculum, those teachers do want to become a part of that.
Our next question will come from Mr. McBride.
What advantages do you believe that you have over your opponent that would lead residents to vote for you?
Ms. Hartig.
I believe that I'm not afraid to tell people the way it is, to be honest. I guess for lack of a better word, I truly have that backbone. It's not always the popular voice, but it's the voice of accountability and it's the voice of truth. We have to do what's right, no matter what. And sometimes, unfortunately, that hurts, but we do have to do what's right.
Mr. Weishauer.
I believe the reality of it is you need to be able to say what need to be said, whether it's popular or not, but you need to be able to do it in such a way where you can still work with those that you are working with. It's important that we bring trust to the board, and not only trust to the board, but trust to the community from the board. That's the leadership style that I bring. I serve on boards right now where a lot of times I am the only voice in a certain direction. I have no problem being that voice, but at the end of the day, I also can leave that boardroom. I can make sure I can shake hands with everybody there, make sure I treated everybody there with respect, dignity. We may have agreed to disagree, but we did it agreeably, and I think that's an important distinction between the two of us.
Ms. Falkowski.
Hi, I'd like to ask, do you see a need to promote or search out minority leadership for the schools, especially in our largely Hispanic-populated areas?
Mr. Weishauer.
I would say that it's important that we seek out the best quality candidate regardless of race or background. And if they happen to be of a certain ethnic background, then great, no problem with that. But I think it's important that we always seek the best individual regardless of their race, regardless of their culture. I think that's what we would expect from anybody, and I think anytime we put race or ethnicity above effectiveness or above what's best for the students and for the community, then we've got it backwards. I welcome the diversity in Osceola County. I've grown up with the diversity in Osceola County, and I embrace that diversity. But I think it's always important that we seek to make sure we have the best qualified people.
Ms. Hardig.
I absolutely agree. I think we need to search for the best. You cannot bring race, ethnicity into it. And I certainly think the majority of our teachers and staff right now are the best and are extremely diverse in Osceola County.
Our next question comes from Mr. Hanson.
Yes. Minority business contracts. Do you agree with the current policy, and will you support it in your case?
Ms. Hardig.
This board set the majority of that policy, so I do agree with it. I think we need to do more to engage small businesses, local businesses, because the bottom line is we need to go with the best price, absolutely positively. But when you try and recruit within, typically those prices are going to be the best. So can we have a little bit of enhancement on the local vendor preference? Absolutely. Does it need to change a lot? No. Do we need to reach out to more people and continue training on how to become vendors and be competitive? Yes, we do.
Mr. Weishauer.
I think it's important, again, it kind of goes back to the same question as earlier, but I think it's important that we seek the best bids in this instance and that we make sure that we're finding the people that can provide the best services for the taxpayers of Osceola County. If it, again, happens to be in a minority business, then that's great. I'm happy for that. I have no problem with that. But I think it's important, taxpayers are making a large investment in education, and they want to make sure that we're spending the dollars in the most effective way. I love the idea of business being local. I support that wholeheartedly, without a doubt. But the reality of it is that local business then also has to make sure that they can deliver what we're looking for, and they can also bring in the best price so the taxpayers are getting the best return on their investment.
Our next question comes from Mr. McBride.
What are your thoughts on the FCAT and how it's utilized?
Mr. Weishauer.
I think having an FCAT, or any CAT for that matter, if you will, standardized test is important so we can see where our students are, where they're deficient, and where they need to grow. The way it's utilized, there's a lot of drama, a lot of political motivation sometimes around it, and a lot of commentary that's often said on it. I think the reality of it is we need to make sure that we have that measurement tool in place. We need to continue to see where our students are and say, listen, if you're going to graduate, we expect you to have this set of standards or this set of understanding or comprehension. Then we utilize a tool like the FCAT or an SAT or whatever it may be to make sure that we are ensuring that our students are getting what it is they're supposed to be receiving in the classroom. I don't care what CAT you call it, as long as we're measuring our students, providing the accountability that our parents are looking for so that they know that the education their students are getting in our schools is world class.
Ms. Hardig.
I think we certainly need some type of testing, whether it's FCAT or some type of benchmark testing. The key is that we work collaboratively with the state to ensure that we have a benchmark that is stable. The bar can't keep changing, the formulas can't keep changing, and we don't want to know there's constant mistakes. And when we have this testing, that our children's lives are depending on it, we need to get that feedback and results very early in the academic year, because when you get grades in December, guess what? You're already halfway through the curriculum year. So it's important, but we need the feedback immediately, and it does need to be relooked at.
Our next question comes from Ms. Falkowski.
What plan do you have to address our existing school buildings or even building new schools, and how do you plan to fund that?
Ms. Hardig.
Well, I think we're looking at redistricting right now, and that's something that we always need to look at. Basically, the majority of our schools right now are under capacity, so redistricting will take care of much of that, as much as maybe 10 or 15% below capacity. We do have some schools that exceed capacity. Do we really need to build any schools right now? Certainly not. We have as an option, we have Four Corners Charter School, which does belong to us. If we ever got into a pinch where we were over capacity, we didn't have funding to build, we could work on taking that school over. We do have first right of refusal on that. The only other school we need to look at is Michigan Avenue, and I think we're looking at that right now to get a budget, and then we're going to figure out where to get the money from to redo that school. And again, it's looking at line items to see what you can move.
Mr. Weishauer.
Ms. Hardig hit it right on the head with the fact that most of our schools are underutilized right now. We're actually below capacity. I actually just left the Office of Long Range Planning for the district to have this very conversation early in the week and a couple weeks back as well. In specific to the point, though, is how are we going to address the future needs? We are seeing growth in Osceola County, 2.5% growth this year with our students who are in that range, and it's projected to continue to grow. So we are going to have to deal with it. We also know that on the west side of our county, we have a lot of growth, or a lot of movement, I should say, out that way due to the homelessness and the economy we're dealing with. There are going to be some concerns, and to the point specific, I would say that one of the key things is that as we as a school board, if we get things right and we show people that we are really moving towards the right direction in education, then what happens is economic development grows. When that grows, you increase funding. When you increase funding, you have the dollars to build new schools. And I think it's important we really look at that full circle and how it all contributes to one another.
Our next question is from Mr. Hanson.
Yes, with approximately 70% of Osceola student body being minorities and predominantly Hispanic, do you think the current ESOL program is working properly, or should it be changed? And I think now you call it LLE or some other initials, right?
Mr. Weishauer.
I think there's always room for improvement. I would start by saying, but I would also add that we do have programs in place like the dual language programs that I think are great, worked effectively, and they not only work well for those students, but they also work for people that do speak English and need to learn a second language are going to be bilingual and biliterate. So there's always room for opportunity and always room for improvement. So my short answer would be yes, I do think it's working. My long answer would be that I think that there's room for improvement in that. And that's where I think it's important as a board that we sit down and say, okay, recognizing there's a need in our community with this particular segment of our population, how are we going to continue to enhance what we're doing to ensure that we're serving this very large and very important segment of our student population?
Ms. Hardig.
I do think it's also working. I think there is definitely room for improvement with it. And I would absolutely concur that what we really need is probably more of our dual language programs. It's very successful over in Thacker. And when you get the English learners and the Spanish learners together and they're commingled, their success rate for adjusting to either language is extremely good. So I think if we focus on some more of that dual language, that's going to enhance our ELL programs.
Our next question comes from Mr. McBride.
What more can the school district do to recruit and retain the best possible teachers?
Ms. Hardig.
To recruit them, I think they do a pretty good job right now. We do a massive call out for teacher positions, and those resumes are really screened. I think the thing that's going to be happening this year, which I'm excited about, is the principals, professional development, APs, they get to look at those applications as well, and they have buy-in. So I think, we do have our HR staff, professional development, that does go out to other states to recruit teachers, and if we know of an area where there's a specialty or some teachers that really excel, we try and bring them in here for interviews. And of course, we have the huge job fair for the ones that are selected to come in there. And I think if we continue to do that, we will continue to recruit the best teachers, and I think we'll really keep them too, since our schools now have the total buy-in of who they're going to bring on board. I think it makes a big difference.
Mr. Weishauer.
I think we are doing well with recruiting. However, I would say that I think this is one of the things that we need to talk about, and it's one of the main position points in my platform for my candidacy is that we need to retain, recruit, and recognize high-performing educators. The problem is the front doors is open and we're welcoming new teachers in, but unfortunately the back door is also open, and a lot of high-quality educators are leaving Osceola County, and they're leaving, I think, and I've heard just flat out, primarily because of the tone set from the board, lack of consistency in the superintendency and the lack of consistency at the district office. So I think if we're going to continue to want to recruit high-performing educators to Osceola County, I think it's vital that as a board we work collaboratively, and not just collaboratively with one another or with 4 members of the board, with all 5 members, including the superintendent, to make sure that we're working as a team, moving forward, increasing academic achievement in Osceola County, and showing these teachers that the work they're doing every single day and the blood, sweat, and tears that they're putting in is appreciated, is valued, and is not overlooked by the antics that we often see.
Our next question is from Ms. Falkowski.
What are your thoughts on the possibility of this school district becoming involved in a workforce housing project?
Mr. Weishauer.
I'm opposed to it. I think the simple reality of it is this is something that the private sector should deal with, and I think there's plenty of private sector individuals out there who would love to take that on. I would tell you that also that this is something where we have a glut of inventory not currently on the market in Osceola County, but is what we would call shadow inventory in Osceola County. There's a lot of foreclosure homes that have not hit the market yet. Prices are incredibly low and affordability is incredibly high right now. And so I think it's important that we allow the private sector to do what the private sector does, and we allow the public sector to do what they should be doing. Let's us focus on education, and let's let all the real estate professionals, developers focus on that aspect of it.
Ms. Hardig.
I couldn't agree more. We went down this path a few years ago. It's not a path we should go down. Again, let the real estate folks do what they do. Let us educate our children. That's what our job is, the education of our children.
Mr. Hanson.
Yes, when Dr. Grego left, the school board decided to do a major search for a new superintendent. They aborted this idea, and they offered a new job to Superintendent Terry Andrews, who did not apply for it. Did you agree with the board's decision, or what would you have done differently?
Ms. Hardig.
I did agree with the board decision. I recognize that was a mistake. You have to apply for a job. You have to want it. You have to apply for it. And I certainly don't think we should bring somebody on board, and in hindsight's 2020, that is going to leave in a couple of years, because we need stability and we need long-term leadership, someone who's going to be there several years from now.
Mr. Weishauer.
I not only disagree with how it was handled and the fact that it was done that way, but I think it also breached the trust of the public, and I think that's vitally important when you're serving in a public office. I think as a result of that, and we saw it in the newspapers and on the televisions, that the community was outraged by that. And so what I would say is that I fully support having a full national search. I would also add to that, Ms. Luciano has indicated that she may very well be interested in a long-term position, and I welcome her application. I welcome interviewing her as part of that process. If she is the right person for Osceola County, then I want her. If she's not the right person in that capacity, then I want her in the appropriate capacity so we can make sure that we develop a world-class school system. I'll continue to repeat that term because I think it's important that we understand that's what this is all about. With regard to the superintendent search, I think it's vital that we take a look broad and wide, that we say this is the CEO of our organization, this is someone that's going to be managing over 6,000 employees and a $750 million budget. We can't get that wrong. The school board got it wrong once. I think that's why I should be elected, so that they know that they have somebody that's not going to make that mistake again.
Panelists, I'm going to let you know this is our last set of questions. You're each going to get one more, and we'll start with Mr. McBride.
Are there currently any school services in the district that you think that could use some improvement?
Mr. Weishauer.
I'd have to think on this one, and I'll tell you that my short answer on that would be no, specific, but in general, yes. When we look at graduation rates, which have been improving, but we look at FCAT scores, we look at what's going on with our student body as a whole, we look at how the number of our students that are actually achieving at what we would call standard level of 3.0 or higher, I think there's definitely room for improvement. So key really to me is that we focus in curriculum, is that we focus not only in curriculum, but in professional development. As we enhance the curriculum in the district, we need to make sure that our educators have the tools and resources they need to grow, to enhance the education in the classroom, and make sure that we're driving performance again. So I wouldn't say that there's any one particular issue I think is a problem, but I would say that until we've reached the pinnacle of education, until we're that top-rated school, that we are the best school, then I think it's important that we stay focused on curriculum and professional development. Give our educators the tools that they need so they can succeed.
Ms. Harding.
You're saying school services, and I'm assuming you mean on the educational side. I think one of our weak areas in school services is on the vocational side. And quite frankly, out in District 3, the thing we need vocational school, vocational training. We need to take Poinciana High School, who had an auto body shop, who had auto mechanics, we need to get that back up and going there. We need to build upon the woodworking shop that is out there. They're running a great business out there. And we need to get some of that brought over to Liberty. We've got the great medical training out there, but not every child wants to go to college. Not every child can afford to go to college, which is why we need the dual enrollment pushed strongly out there. If a child can get 2 years of paid education while they are in high school and only have to pay for 2 years to go to college, we have just worked towards getting that world-class education, and it hasn't come out of the parents' pocket. And that's what's so important. Not everybody can afford. A lot of kids want to do vocational, and we need to give them the tools to be successful at that.
Ms. Falkowski.
We've heard a lot about academic performance and the need to improve on academic performance, but no one has discussed special needs children. I'd like to know, as a school board member, what is your position on increasing the opportunities for special needs children within our school district?
Ms. Hardig.
There's a lot of room for growth in the special needs area, and quite frankly, the district does a fairly good job at it, but they do have a ways to go. You know, one of our shining stars was a person by the name of Tommy who came before the school board, who I'm very proud of. Our school district, Tommy was labeled as a child who would never succeed because he was special needs. Our school district, our teachers that care, they spent that time with him and they said, you know what? We can make Tommy succeed. Tommy is now attending Valencia. So, do we have room for growth? Yes. We just need to give more training. I mean, the special needs, they do have special needs, and we need to help the teachers so they can get through that training. You know, there's just a lot to it. It's all-encompassing, and every child needs to be treated just a little bit differently and handled a little bit differently. But if we give them the attention, every child will succeed, and we can probably get them in all the vocational programs, too.
Mr. Weishauer.
You've actually hit a question very close to my heart because I grew up with a special needs sister. So I understand the importance of our ESC department. I understand how vitally important it is to all of our students in Osceola County. In the last presentation that Penny Collins gave, she indicated that about 13% of our student population, excluding gifted, is in ESC. That's a large portion of our population. I think it's vital that as a school district we continue to provide the professional development needed to continue to grow this area. And I'll tell you, I just the other day left UCP, which is one of the charter schools here in Osceola County that deals specifically with special needs. We need to continue to find ways that we can service this segment of our population. It's vital, it's important, it's needed, and it's also the responsible thing to do. When we say every child can learn and we say education inspires all to their highest potential, then that needs to mean all, and we can't segment that out. So I'm fully supportive behind making sure that our ESC department is funded and run properly.
And our final question for Mr. Hanson.
Yes, I think we have one of the best school systems in Florida. Unfortunately, the parent participation is always minimal or none. Do you have any plans or any ideas on how to get the parents to participate more in the education of their children through the school?
Mr. Weishauer.
Glad to answer that, and I think anybody that knows me in Osceola County knows that if I've been nothing, I've been an advocate for getting parent involvement. I've taught all-pro dads in schools, I've done junior achievement, I've done all types of things. I know how important it is, and when my daughters were going to school, I knew how important it was for me to be there with them. The reality of it is, I think, yes, we have to get this right. The reality is teachers every single day are saying, if I just had a parent to partner with me so I can help Johnny or Susie, or I can make sure that this child is getting what they need and performing to the level they need to, it's important. I will absolutely continue to work, and I think there's opportunities with working with the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCAs, the nonprofits in the community, and all of the areas that we have to say, what are we going to do to partner with you guys? You're already there, you're dealing with the community, you already have your hands in the families and working in the community. What can we do as a school district to partner with you and make sure that we're connecting with families, connecting with students both in and out of school, making sure that we're providing the resources that they need?
Ms. Hardig.
One of the things, parent involvement is very important. Unfortunately, when you take our district, which is 78% poverty, parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. They can't get there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock. But you know what? When there's a town hall meeting, those parents might not be on time, but they get there. They get there late and they straggle in. We need to work with the parents. We need to see how we can help them. There's a lot of parent training that goes on. There's a lot of, different things that are available to the parents, and we need to get that word out there. Even like, dual enrollment. Get them to school and let them know about dual enrollment. Most importantly, though, we need transportation. A lot of our parents don't have vehicles. We need more links lines. We need to be able to get the parents to the events so that we can get the kids to the events, because out in our district, you're going to find out the kids aren't that involved either, not because they don't want to. They don't have a way to stay after school and get home. They miss the bus to school, guess what? Poinciana's got no links line to get them there. Liberty does. So we need to look at transporting these kids. We need to work as a community and get everybody involved, because it takes the community to get the transportation.
And I want to really thank our panel. They did an excellent job for their questions. Thank you very much. And we're going to move into the 30-second closing remarks, and we're going to begin with Ms. Hardig.
Oh, I don't have my paper out for that.
Well, that's okay. You can take your time. We won't start the clock till you start talking.
Okay. Mine's not even going to take 30 seconds. I just want to tell everybody, really, thank you for letting me be here tonight. I'm honored to be here today. And my role as a school board member is to serve the students and the communities, families, and the educators. They've entrusted me in this position, and I plan on continuing that. I am not a yes person. I am a voice of the person, the people I serve. I am a voice of the children. I am a voice of the educators. I am a voice of the taxpayer. I am a voice of the community. And I will show my passion and continue to do that with responsibility each and every day when I am reelected. So thank you.
Next up, Mr. Weishauer.
I would conclude by saying that bullying is never appropriate. It's not appropriate in the classroom. It's not appropriate from the school board. It's not appropriate anywhere in the school district. And I think it's important that we have a leader that knows how to work with individuals, knows how to work as a team. That's what I am. That's what I do every single day. As I serve on boards, I serve on organizations, and I am a true champion for education. My involvement in the school speaks for itself. And if you're looking for a change in the school board and you're tired of seeing all the negativity and all the things that have been going on in the news, and you want to make sure that your students are going to a school system that is led by a school board that knows how to work together and is willing to set a 5-year strategic plan to make sure that we're headed the right direction in the future, then Tim Weishauer is the best choice. Thank you.
I tell you, both of our candidates did a fantastic job with this debate. Let's give them a huge round of applause. I want to thank our panel for being here this evening and giving us our great questions. I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank our co-presenting sponsor for this event, the Osceola County Educators Association. I want to thank our event sponsors, Kissimmee Utility Authority, Valencia College, and Access Osceola. And thank you for watching, and don't forget to vote on August 14th. Good evening.